there, thanks for joining me to color. Today we are going to be doing some watercoloring, and we're going to be working on this adorable Prima Marketing Fresh Flowers 1 stamp. Really great for watercoloring. Beautiful. So while we wait for everybody to get here and check in and say hi, next week's live stream is going to be this adorable Baker May Happy Cupcake Day card kit. So if you'd like to go head over to the store and grab that up, you can have 25% off until July 5th using coupon code July6. Just type it into the coupon section when you go to checkout and you can get 25% off her. So that'll get you something for next week. And then the week after that, we're going to do something, not a card kit, but something different. So if you have suggestions for what you would like to do the following week, let me know down in the comments section and I will write it on my list and I will work on something for that. So for our little watercolor guy here, we are going to, let me put some of my stuff over here, do some watercoloring. So I always use this Arches cold press 140-pound paper. This is the hot press one because I couldn't find my cold press paper pad when I wanted to bring it in here to show you what it looked like. But I usually use either or. I've tended to here lately to use the cold press more than I do the hot press one. But since I'm out, I'll probably have to use this next time. So I've already went ahead and cut me out a piece of the watercolor paper. Put that down on the floor so I have less stuff over here. And let me put my card over here so we can get that out of the way. Hi Trish, thanks for joining me. So I've got my piece of cold pressed paper here, and I like to look at it because one side is a little bit rougher than the other side. So I'm going to pick this side as the smooth side. And then I'm going to add some of my Inkadinkado static, anti-static tool here to it. This will keep the embossing powder from sticking anywhere else onto my paper. So I just give that a light coating of that. And I always use this before embossing so that I don't have to worry about my embossing powder sticking to anything else. Then I'm going to use my handy dandy Hampton Arts stamp positioner here. If I can get the magnet out. Oh, there, we stuck it to another magnet. That's always helpful. So let's see. Let's put it in here. Let me check for I already put my stamp in here, so I'd already have it in here. But let's see. Let's move it over just a little bit more. I want to be able to, I always cut my paper large enough so that I will have room to tape it down onto my wooden cutting board and then trim it later. Let's go over a little bit more. Go all the way over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So then we're going to use some VersaMark watermark stamp pad. So we're going to go ahead and stamp this. And we're going to stamp it on here. Well, let's see if we can go up just a little bit with the camera for a minute. How's that? That might be a little bit better so you can see something. And then I'm going to press it down. And because it's watercolor paper, I'm going to go ahead and give it a second stamping because watercolor paper is rough and I want to make sure to get a good impression on there. And stamp this as I shake everything on the table from my pressing. There we'll have a nice stamped impression. Go ahead and take this out. And I'm going to try not to touch my paper too much because I don't want to get oil from my hand on there that will make the embossing powder stick there. Whoops. Okay. Then I'm going to get my little handy dandy coffee filter. And today I'm going to use Wow Silver Pearl regular embossing powder. Trish, I like all stamps. But this is a good one for watercoloring because it's kind of bigger. So I thought that would be perfect for us. So then I'm going to get my embossing powder here. I'm going to try not to make a huge mess. But we're just going to drop it onto our paper. And you probably can't see it on camera, but I can actually see just a little bit of the outline of the stamp. So I can see it a little bit on there. So I know where I'm dropping it. Let's try that. Right up here, it's got a little bit extra, so I'm going to brush that off because there's not any stamps over here. And there you got, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little bit, you can see the flower on there. So let's put this away so I don't spill this, because I would so do that. Put this, whoops, got my spoon in there the wrong way. Whoops. Not very coordinated today. Put all of this over here. And then I'm going to use my heat embossing tool to emboss it. So I always let my heat tool, and it's probably going to be noisy for a second, but I let my heat tool heat up for a second. And I'm going to hold it away from the microphone, hopefully that you won't be able to see, that you won't be too loud. So I'm going to grab this and go over here for a second. And we just want to emboss it until it turns shiny. So here you can see I've got some of it embossed and maybe some of it's still the powder stuff there, if you can see that. Finish embossing the rest. And I picked this silver pearl because it's kind of sparkly and it will show up a little bit better than just the clear one. I also like to use white. This just happened to be at the top of the pile. Not down there. But there we've got it all embossed, nice and shiny. Very pretty. And then I take, and I have this cheapo wooden cutting board I picked up over at Walmart. I love it because it's got a little hole right here and I can hang it on to my knob on my cabinet. Let's see, let's put this on here. And then I'm going to tape it down with some of this blue painter's tape that my husband loaned me. Little did he know I was not going to be giving him that back. So now it's mine. Then I just take it and tape it down. On one side there. Hi Dee, I'm glad you could join us. And then I kind of hold it with my arm while I tape another side so that it's flat. And then kind of smush it down so it flattens it out. And then we're going to go this. And then again, I'm going to hold it down and then squish it with my hand here. And even so, it's still a little bit bubbled up right there. I didn't get it perfectly flat, and I never do. And then we'll stick this one over here. And depending on how much of an outline you want, you can tape it as far in or as little as you want. I'm going to cut mine out with a rectangle later, so I didn't care how far it was. So get it all taped down so you can get it wet. And then we're going to be using this set of Gansai Tambi watercolors, and I'll put a link to these down in the description box. I don't carry them in the store, but because I can't get them as cheap as you can buy them on Amazon. So there's a link down in the description to Amazon to pick these up, and they're not too expensive. So we are going to use, and I like them because they come with, it comes with this little paper here that has the numbers of them, and it also has the names, so don't throw that away. You need that. And then when I first got them, I made a swatch of all the colors with the numbers on the side, so I would know exactly what they look like when I open the box. That's always very helpful, so you want to keep that. But today we are going to use number 33. So I'm going to go ahead and pop them out of the box. That's another thing I like about these is you can remove them. We're going to use 33, 31, 30, 53. Get that out. And then 47, which is dark brown for kind of like shadows on the inside. I'll put all this over here too. I just got a pile of stuff over here. We'll set that on the floor so we don't have to mess with it. So then I also am going to use a couple of paintbrushes, and I picked these over at my local art supply store, so they're nothing fancy. There's a number 6 and a number 12 round. I think this one was $7.99, and I think this one was $6.99. So they're not, you know, fabulous, but they're perfect for just messing around. And then I've got a piece of paper towel, and then I've got a couple of jars of water. One I'm going to use for clear water, and then one I'm going to use to dip my paintbrush to get the paint off. And these are just jars I had laying around from ice cream. I'm going to do all that. And so I like to start by dipping my brush in the water and adding some water to my paints. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just add a little bit of paint. I better move this or I'm so going to get that all over the place. And you can also, I forgot to bring it in here, use a spritzer bottle. Or I have a little eyedropper tool that I just take the water and drop it in there. But since I forgot it, we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way here by adding some water on top of our paint. And the numbers for these are also on the bottom. So if you forget what color they are, they're on the bottom of the containers. So we're going to start with that. So I thought we wouldn't do anything too difficult today. I'm going to try to keep them all just one color for the flowers, and that way we won't have to do too much drying. What I do is I get my paintbrush wet, and then I bring it in here, and let's do the giant flowers first. So let's do this big one. So I'm just going to get my paper wet with clear, clean water. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of my let's see, the middle tone. So number 31. I did look to see what color it was. And I'm just going to drop it down next to the center of my flower. Like that. And then I'm going to wash my brush off and dab it on my paper towel. And then I'm going to take just my damp brush and I'm going to spread this out. And the embossing helps you keep it in the line. I still managed to go out, but it will help you a little bit to keep it inside the line. You don't have to be quite so careful. And then I let that dry, or if you get impatient, you can blast it with your heat tool, which I do quite a bit. So then we're going to do the other large flower. So that's going to be this one over here. Might need a little bit more water. Trying to get it damp, but not, you know, falling off, running all over the place. And then again, I'm going to drop it right in the middle. And then rinse my brush off. Now, because I had paint on it, I'm going to use my clear water too, and then dab it on my paper towel. And then I'm just going to use my dabbed off paintbrush to spread this out to the outside. Like that. I think I'm going to try to go down just a little bit closer, so it might get shaky here for a second. There you go. I forgot I zoomed out so you could actually see something that I was doing before. Okay, so now I'm going to let that dry instead of heat blasting it, and I'm going to do some of these medium-sized flowers. So again, I'm going to get my paintbrush with just clear water, and I'm going to swirl over the top of those flowers. And then this time I'm going to pick up my orange, which was number 30, I think. Look. Number 33. And then I'm just going to drop that in here in the center. And then I want to rinse my brush off. Dab it on my paper towel. And then brush this out to the outside. I put quite a bit more on this one, so it's kind of making a big puddle. Okay, then again, we'll get some clear water, and we're going to add it to some more of these medium-sized flowers. A couple over here. And this petal right here is still wet, so I want to be careful not to get that into go into here. And then let's get some more of our orange. Rinse my brush off. Dab it in my clear water. Dab it off on my paper towel. And then bring it over here and brush it around on my flower. And again, this one's wet, so be careful going by that one. Okay, then we're gonna let those all dry. I'm gonna grab a little bit of clear water, and on these ones that look like they're all stuck together, I'm going to brush some water on top of those. And just kind of, when I put the ink on, I'm just gonna kind of let it fall into the little holes. Get this wet. And then for this, we're gonna use number 30. So grab a little bit and then brush it in the middle here. And I'm gonna grab a little bit more. On this one. And then we just kind of let it sit in there. Yes, Trish, you definitely need to try it. It's really fun. You can get so sucked into watercoloring, and it's so easy. So this one over here, I've got a little bit much on there, so I'm going to grab some with my paintbrush, kind of mess it around, and then rinse my brush off, and then wipe my brush off, and then grab a little bit more because I don't want to have all this red right in the middle. Okay, then we'll let that dry, see how that turns out. So for the flowers, we are going to, or for the little leaves, we're going to use number 53. So I'm going to get them wet. And be careful next to that one because that's still wet. And then we'll get some of our green. And just like the flowers, I'm going to drop it down here at the bottom where it connects to the flower. And then rinse all my paint off. Dab my brush on my paper towel and then use this paint to spread it up here towards the end so it's lighter at the end. I missed my flower leaf right there a little bit. I got green on the back, but that's okay. Okay, let's get some more clear water. Find some more leaves. So here's one and here's one. And we'll spread that around. I think summer has finally arrived here in Oregon. At least it has. It disappeared there for a few days. It was cold. I had to put on my long sleeve shirt and my... Uh-oh, I got some green on that flower. And a jacket. So for this one that I got green on, I'm going to dab that. My water. Try to dilute that a little bit. I don't want my flower to be green. And let's see, it's kind of hard to see where the little leaves are in here. Just gonna get my paper wet. You girls think you might want to give watercoloring a try? I love that it's totally different than working with your Copics. You get a totally different look. Although I tried watercoloring a person the other day, an image, and I used my Distress inks, free inkers that I've always used, and I just didn't like how it looked this time. It just wasn't. After using these bright colors from this set, it was hard to go back to those Distress inks that were so muted. So I'm going to have to do some practicing, and so I can do some of my people with some other watercolors. Yes, the watercolors are way more forgiving than the Copics are. You can, if you go outside the lines, you can just get it wet and use your paper towel to dab it up. They're pretty easy as long as you don't let them dry. Once they're dry, then you can still move them around, but they don't pick up as easily. But they're great for flowers. And flower stamps have become very popular here lately, so it works out great for that. So there we have all, I think I got it. Let me pick it up so I can see if I got all the leaves. Oh, here's one right here. Here's a leaf. I'm going to use my paper towel because I got a little bit too much on there and grab a little bit of that water up. like that. I think I got them all this time. But that's what you get with just a first coat. Let me see if these dry over here. So these ones here that are dry in the middle that we started with, let's go ahead and see if we can maybe add a little bit more. Brush wet, pick up color. Apparently I need to move my chat out here just a little bit because I can't read the rest of the chat. Let me widen it out. So anyway, Mr. HeathersHobbieHaven has a question. So what I do with my watercolors is, so I have my two little paintbrushes here. Let's go up a little bit. So before I start, I go ahead and I dip my brush in here and get it wet. So let's use a clean water. And then I wipe it on the side of the jar to get some of that excess water off there. And then I pick up my paint, the green one here. And then I tap it over here on my thing. And then I take my dirty water and I rinse it off. And again, I wipe it on the side of the jar to get some of that dirty junk off there. And then I dip it into my real water. And then I wipe it off again. And then I dab it on my paper towel just to get that big blob of water off. And then I use that water that's just dampened my brush to pull it out here towards the end. Does that make sense? Mr. HeathersHobbieHaven's going to take up watercoloring. So we can go, let's see. So I'm going to try to add a little bit more color to these flowers in here. So again, I'm going to grab some clear water. So I'm going to get my brush wet. I'm going to wipe it off over here on the side. And then I'm going to just practically dump some water here in the middle of my flowers. And then for these flowers, we again use number 31. So I'm going to go ahead and dip my brush back into my water and then pick up some of my 31 and then dab it into the middle and let the water that I put on the petal suck the water out to the outside. And then you rinse your brush off in your dirty water, wipe it on the side of the cup, dip it in the clean water, wipe that on the side of the cup, dry off on your paper towel, and then come out here, and I want it to be a little bit darker, so I'm just going to soften this edge that looks all spidery. And if you let it dry by itself, you get a totally different look than if you dry it with your heat tool. So if you're impatient like me, mine usually looks done quick because I can't wait. I gotta dry it right away. We've got that one. And then let's add a little bit more to this one over here, the second one over here. And then I'll show you what it looks like when you dry it with a heat tool. Get this wet with some clean water. Okay. And I'm going to rinse it off. Bring this up. Kind of spread out that edge there a little bit. Okay, let me grab my heat tool. And I let it heat up for just a second, and I'm going to move my microphone away for a second. And then we just put it on here. And then you get, so it doesn't, when it dries with the heat tool, it dries quickly, so it doesn't let it kind of like this side. So now I'm going to take just a little bit of clear water. And let's try dabbing this edge. I'm going to put a little bit more color in here. Soften that up. And then we'll let that one dry and see how much different it looks compared to this one over here when we tried it with the heat tool. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a little bit more orange to some of these. So I'm going to go ahead and use some clear water just to dab on there. And then pick up some of our orange. Clean our brush off. And then spread this out a little bit. I like how this one here with how that dried out here towards the edges. Really dark in the cracks. And then let's go ahead, I think I'll add a little bit more green to a few of these bigger petals. Kind of hard to get into the ones that are really small. But I'm going to add a little bit more green to some of these. Like that, I'm liking that. So then I'm going to add a little bit of color around some of the flowers out here. So I'm going to grab my really big brush, which this is a number 12 round. And I'm going to grab, let me move some of this stuff because I can see me making a big mess. We're going to use number 47, dark brown. I'm going to get my brush wet with just some clean water. Tab it off, run it on the side of my pan to get rid of some of it. So I'm going to swish it around here and then I smush it up against the side here to get, so it's not falling out. And then let's do, since I did these leaves up here, let's start kind of down here. So we're going to get some of this wet over here. And then we're going to pick up some brown. And then we're going to, I rinsed my brush off and dipped it back in my clear water. I'm going to have to turn this just a little bit. Turn it around over here. And then I'm going to use with my wet brush, I'm just going to wipe this around in here. I'm going to get some more water. Wipe my brush off too much. And we're going to let it pool up in the middle here. And get rid of some of that. I don't want that to be so dark right there. I think watercolors are pretty easy to go with. I mean, you don't, if I, like I did, I heat emboss mine, so it kind of contains everything in the space where you want it. You can't, I mean, you can go outside the lines, but if you use the heat embossing, you're pretty safe just dropping the water and then the ink on top of it and then letting it pool out here. And then out here, I've got this big line. I'm going to get my brush wet and I'm just going to saturate the paper like this and let that kind of smush the water out here by itself. And I got a little crazy. I didn't get my paper wet enough, so I've got these big blobs here. That's not really what I wanted, but we're going to see if we can get rid of those. I might have to get my smaller brush here. That's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to wipe those a little bit. And this is another reason why you want to tape your paper down to a board, because it gets pretty wet and it's going to warp. So if you at least tape it down, that will help it stay flatter. It's not necessarily, mine are never warp free. They're always kind of bent. That's why I always cut out, when I make the card, I cut out a second layer for underneath and glue it to that. Okay, let's see if we can do, I can do a little bit better job over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add water. Pick up a little bit of my brown. And that's not very much, really. And then I'm just going to use that to wipe around out here just to add a little bit of color to the paper. And this part where you do around the outside, you got to be a little bit more careful because you don't want to get it right on your flower petals that you already painted. On my board here. And then let's add some water over here. Now, see, there's a big blob of water. Let's spread that around. And then again out here, we've got that edge. So I'm going to grab some just clean water and dab it out here so that the water will flow out and soften at the edges. You girls have some ideas for what you want to do. Next week, we're going to do Baker Gwyn, the card kit. So if you girls want to get the card kit for that, you can head to the store and use coupon code July 6 in the coupon area, and you can get that for 25% off, because that's what we're going to be doing next week. And she's really cute. She looks like this. She's a Some Odd Girl stamp. She's really, really adorable. And she comes with another sentiment too. I think it says party. So you get the girl, the hat, this sentiment, and then one that says party on there. But the week after that, we're going to do something, not a card kit, something else. So if you have ideas for that, make sure to leave it down in the comment section and I will write it on my list. I had somebody ask last week if we could do colored pencils. So I wrote that down. I'm not an expert at colored pencils, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'm willing to wing it. We can learn together. Maybe you're new to colored pencils and never tried them either. So that's one of the ideas. But anything else you'd like to try, make sure to let me know and we will try that out. I started a new thing over on my blog where I did some Bible journaling with Illustrated Faith devotional kit. And that was really fun. So I thought I'd share that over there on the store blog too. And I had a few people interested in doing that. So I'm thinking about doing, I'm going to be doing blog posts for it, but I'm thinking about doing maybe a video where I show you what I do, or maybe we can have, if I have some girls that want to get together and do a live stream, we can do something for that too. And I'm going to be starting with the July kit called I Am, if you want to head over to the store and grab that. So we will be working on that. So there so far, and it's really bumpy. I mean, it's raising up off of my cutting board quite a bit. So it's gonna have to dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick it over here for a second and blast this background so that it doesn't take forever. And when you dry it, it'll help it suck back down. But for me, it never is completely flat. That just never happens. We got flattening down, but right here, I've got a big blob of water. I don't know what happened there, but let's get rid of that. But there it is with just 1 or 2 coats of color on there. I think it turned out awesome. But you can continue, you could do, and we'll try it again. We'll do something with another one some other time where we can get a little more advanced, maybe add a couple of different colors. But this was just to show you that with a piece of watercolor paper and a few paints, you could get a really pretty flower and make a card out of it. So on mine, I'm not going to put it together because I have to go cut this piece out with my, what did I use for that? I actually brought it in here so I would remember. I use the Avery L Wonky Stitches die, so this big one down here, and there should be a link down in the description box if you want to grab that. And then the little sentiment here I used with Caring Thoughts comes from the Altenew Thinking of You stamp set right here. And this has a bunch of really cute Thinking of You stamps and sayings, so that's always something really good that you could pick up to send to some friends. And then, like I said, I cut it out with a wonky rectangle, can't talk, wonky rectangle stitch die there, but I cut out a white piece for underneath, and I glued the two together so that it would be flatter, and then I popped it up off of the card base so that it wouldn't really matter either if it's not completely flat. But I tied this cute string on there before I attached it to the card base down here. And this is just adding 2 or 3 more coats because it's pretty dark compared to this one. I just give it a little bit of a light coat, but you could fiddle with that forever and ever. Like these flowers probably have 3 or 4 coats of paint compared to our 2 here. So there's just a difference in just adding more. I kind of like how this one looks where it's got the red in the middle and then it fans out where it's got the white at the edge compared to this one where I spent so much time. I just ended up with way more color on there than I really wanted, but I let it go at that. And then these over here, I ended up adding a bunch more paint because I couldn't really get it into the holes this time. But over here, I just have a little bit down here and then it kind of fans out. I'm really liking how that turned out compared to this where I forcefully mushed it in there and made it stick in there. So do you girls have any questions or some thoughts? If you were watching, you can also leave me a comment. I'm okay with you leaving me comments below and saying hi, or hey Heather, I want to do this next week, or let's try that. I'm okay with that. And there is a pin card for this over on the store blog if you want to pin this on your pin board and save it for what colors I used. I've been trying to keep up on that. And then with the little paints here, when I'm done with these little paints, I let these dry all the way. I'm going to put them back in the box and leave the lid off so that they'll dry because otherwise they'll get gross. So make sure they dry before you cover them all up and leave them stored away. You don't want them to get icky. And this little pan of paint is going to, for your $36 or whatever these paints are nowadays, this is going to last me for like ever. I can give these to my kids when I'm gone. That's quite a bit of paint. So I hope you guys all had fun coloring today. If you have a question, make sure and leave me a comment below. Don't forget, next week we're going to do Baker May, the card kit. So if you want to get that, head over to the store, use coupon code July 6th. It's good until the 5th of July. And if you order this week, it will arrive at your house so you can color with me. Otherwise, I hope you're having a great day, and I'm going to go outside and enjoy the sun. We'll see you next week at noon on Thursday. Bye.